As a young priest at Cristo Rey, I was baptizing over 600 infants a year. I say I because I had a pastor who greatly empowered me, and he said, you can do all the baptisms. And so 600 baptisms a year. You can imagine all the kids we had going through that church. And I noticed that in the Mexican culture, it's important for people to dress up their children for baptism and to buy a certain set that has a shell and a candle and a cloth. And so I thought, why should we allow the flea markets of Austin to be making money when the church's gift shop could be doing this? So beginning in 2001, after my ordination, with my pastor's approval, he empowered me to go to Mexico every 6 to 8 weeks to get a big supply of baptismal gowns and candle and shell sets from Mexico, and to bring them back to sell in the gift shop. It was great for the parish. The owner of the Catholic shop in Monterrey that I visited every 6 to 8 weeks, his name was Dr. Trevino. And every time I see Dr. Trevino, to this day, he still gives me a 30% discount when I go to his store for anything that I want. But I will continue. Every time he tells me the price of something, you know me, I hesitate, and I tell him. He tells me the price, and I respond to him in Spanish saying, Hoy soy un pobre padre, pobre. I'm a poor priest. To which he responds with the Spanish dicho, a saying. He says, El político pobre es pobre político. When I complain to him about being poor, he says, El político pobre es pobre político. The politician without money is a poor politician. Think about that for a moment. We talked yesterday about people in political office. How did they get into the political office that they have? Because they organized enough people to go to the polls, and in order to get the people to the polls, they probably organized enough money to be able to support that effort. El político pobre es pobre político. And as I drove back from Mexico that day, that was the first time I'd ever heard that dicho, that Spanish saying, I said to myself, that's kind of cool. Knowing that we were coming and we were going to have this meeting, and I've been thinking about independent Catholicism, thinking about this and thinking, I don't want this to come off the wrong way to any of my brother and sister priests and or anyone else, but what if we were to think a moment about how it is that the priest without money is a penniless priest, right? The independent Catholic landscape, it seems, is comprised of a number of persons who wish they had greater resources, which is why I thought it would be important for us to have this conversation today. Earlier this morning, Archbishop Johnson pointed out that some groups are comprised of as few people as a single bishop. Remember what we said yesterday about if you're a shepherd without any sheep? A lot of outstanding bishops. So how do you get resources? Because if you are alone in your ministry, celebrating your private mass, then there's no one likely supporting your ministry, or very few persons at that. So the way that I've sort of thought through this is using the schema from yesterday, that there are two sources of power and influence in this world. You have to organize people, and or you have to organize resources. And so I thought that this morning we just unpack briefly the organizing of people and the organizing of resources and see if any of this might help any of us in our own ministries. Organizing people. It's true. The early church had no building, no money, no political influence. It also did not have 1 billion people. Follow me? Or if we were to add all the Christian groups into that, I mean, what an incredible number of Christians and Catholics we are throughout the world. But the reason we are that way is because that people started organizing, coming together to break bread and share a cup and to read scriptures together. They started organizing. And when they were together, I suspect St. Paul gives us some insight in his letter to the Corinthians when they're talking about the food that people were sharing. They were excluding some people at the door, which is why we have that remnant of that passage. But it gives us this insight into how it is that when they got together to share bread and a cup of wine in Jesus' memory, there was food there. So who made the food? I'm imagining it was something where they looked around and said, will you bring the frijoles? Will you bring the tortillas? Will you bring the arroz? And they started organizing, well, maybe not those foods, but how it is that they started organizing resources. And suddenly, not only were we organizing people, but we were organizing resources. People were bringing their resources with them to the early church. So how do we organize people? Father Libardo and I came onto an insight last year. We took 4 Sundays off from here while Father Cleopas Maria and Father Roy were kind enough to take care of all the masses. We took vacation for 4 weeks. Oh, actually, I wish it were vacation. What we did is we Googled the largest churches in Texas because we were going to do a 4-week study on what attracts people to those places. Right? Let's find out where's the largest church in Texas. Let's visit it together. Let's be part of that experience, and then let's come back and reflect on that and see what we can learn from that. So Father Libardo and I, after that experience of visiting these large churches, I think that what I took away from all that was these churches are so large because of the experience they create. Think about that for a moment. Why? Our Lutheran brothers and sisters whom we love so dearly, their congregations dwindled down to some 13 to 18 people per Sunday that worship here. When there's a UT football game, when the Longhorns are playing, we have over 20,000 people filling a stadium. What's the difference between what's being offered here for these 13 to 18 people and what's being offered for these 20,000 people? In our estimation, after visiting those churches, it comes down to the creation of an experience. Amusement parks do this. I say that because Anthony and I we got season passes at Six Flags last year. We've since let it expire, but it was kind of fun to go to those amusement parks and see how they create an experience for people. Mega churches create an experience. Going to a sports event and being part of all that is creating an experience for people. Why can't we, within the independent Catholic tradition, think about the experience that we're creating for people in our own ministries? Anytime that we're interacting with people for whatever sacrament or whatever ministry point, what experience, how are they walking away from that? What are they feeling as they walk away from that? Are they feeling that they'll never come back again? We've heard enough horror stories these last 2 days. We've heard enough horror stories of people who had such a bad experience that they probably didn't go back to that church or back to that minister. How are we providing a different experience, one that draws people back over and over and over again, despite the ritual, which is part of our Catholic tradition? And so we've been focusing here at Holy Family. Every time we have a clergy council meeting this past year, ever since our visits to those mega churches, we've been focusing on our creation of experience. What are we doing to create an experience for the people who come here? And here at Holy Family, one of the things I'd like to leave us with is simply that we're always trying to think a few weeks ahead and think about what can people look forward to every Sunday. Every Sunday we're trying to create a schedule weeks in advance so that we can be announcing. You'll hear it this Sunday as part of our announcements. At the end of the Mass we'll say, next Sunday we'll have our Kindles for Kids raffle and our View from the Pew, and sort of like telling them, if you come next Sunday, this is what you can expect. If you're not here, this is what you're going to miss. We live in a market economy, I would say, and in business we talk about return on investment, or ROI. Have you heard about that, return on investment? The people who come to these churches, what are they getting? I don't mean to pick on our Lutheran brothers and sisters, but these 13 people, let's use them as an example rather than our own community. Those 13 people, what are they getting when they come to church? Because they'll keep coming back so long as what they're getting is a better option than anything else they could be doing. Oh, I could be going shopping, I could be playing golf, I could be doing all sorts of things. Why go to Mass? I learned years ago that we always have time for the things that are important to us. Think about that for a moment. When you say, oh, I don't have time, you better believe you have time for those things that are important to you. We make time, right? If family's important to you, you're going to make time. If whatever it is that's important to you, you'll make time for it. Well, it's the same with people. Why do people come to church? Because obviously it's important to them. So it just seems that it should be important to us to make sure that they're leaving somehow nourished, somehow satisfied with that experience. I don't know about you, but I had enough experiences as a young man of going to church and not being nourished by that, where it just left me questioning, why am I doing this? Have you had experiences like that? right? You go to church. For me, I've told you, I'm a visual person. So listening to another person talk to me, to preach, that is death to me. That's so painful. I was left questioning, what am I getting out of all this? Here at Holy Family, that's really one of our questions. So some of the examples that I include here, simply to get us thinking in our own ministries, what are some of the things we might be doing? We celebrate so many saints in the Catholic tradition that when I look at the calendar, when I'm low for ideas of what we can do next Sunday, I'll look at which saints we're celebrating this week, and I'll find Saint Anne, and I'll research Saint Anne. Who's Saint Anne the patron saint of? Oh, Saint Anne is the patron saint of those who are looking for husbands. Boom! We've got something for next Sunday. Next Sunday we're going to have a special prayer for all who are looking for that person to complete their hearts. Right? It takes so little to create an experience that's different. There are all sorts of Catholic churches that people can choose from in Austin, Texas. How are we going to make Holy Family different? You got to believe Holy Family is different when, as part of our announcements, we have a blessing for those who are single but wishing they weren't. And when Father Jayme is talking about the traditional prayer to Saint Anne that goes like this: Saint Anne, help me find a man. And everyone's cheering that at the end of church. Right? Good experience. Or a woman, right? Saint Anne, help me find a woman. So saints, as Catholics, that's one way for us to be able to offer something to people to help nourish them and help create something. If the Catholic ritual is always the same, how do we somehow introduce elements into that make it different for people and different from other places where they could be instead of our place? The sacrament of anointing, the third Sunday of every month, we have the sacrament of anointing here because here at Holy Family we have an older demographic. And there are a lot of people who are facing issues in life, like declining health, like old age, like dementia, like cancer, like diabetes. We could go on and on and on. So many needs for which we could be praying that once a month, the third Sunday of the month for us, after the homily, is a chance for us to say, don't wait until you're on your deathbed to receive what we used to call the last rites. If you're looking for healing, come. The other sacraments of the church, we've turned to celebrating the sacraments on Sundays. Now, we used to celebrate them on Saturdays, but we thought to ourselves, why not celebrate them on Sunday and invite those who want to celebrate the sacraments into our Sunday congregation so that they see our community. They're not just coming to the church during the week, they're actually seeing our community and getting to know a few people and building and making relationships. Kindles for Kids raffle. So we have this new raffle that we introduced. It was an idea by Reverend Patrice. I think two of the things that have really been game changers for this past year is that we introduced our Kindles for Kids raffle. Actually, that came from Father Roy. I don't mean to credit the wrong source here. We have two ideas. One was Father Roy saying that he had gotten Kindle Fires for his grandkids for Christmas. And you know how kids are with their devices these days. So once a month, the first Sunday of the month, we have our Kindles for Kids raffle, right? Get Kindles when they're on sale for $20 each. Every kid who comes that day gets a free ticket, and after communion, you're drawing out the winner of the free Kindle Fire that day. We have Kindles stocked up at the rectory. In the room where Father David is staying, we have a big box of Kindles that will get us through the end of next year because we stock up on, when we see that they're, when they're $30 off, we're buying enough, we're buying as many Kindles as we can, knowing that here as a parish, we're providing this gift to families of devices. I was mentioning Reverend Patrice. She came up with this idea that has really drawn people in. We call it our children's treasure chest. And that is that the kids, it's got to be tough coming to a Mass for a kid when you don't understand all the words, when it's long and boring. The Mass can be long and boring for kids, I understand. And so for us after communion to be able to thank the kids and say thank you for being so good during Mass, we invite all the kids forward for the children's treasure chest to take a gift from the children's treasure chest where, parishioners are donating all sorts of small toys, from the toy aisle in any supermarket, bottles of bubbles and all sorts of little cars and dinosaurs. The kids love it. And especially at the Spanish Mass, when we open up the children's treasure chest and the kids come up there, I think you can ask anyone here at Holy Family, that's been a game changer. And it essentially came from us asking, in light of this older demographic that we have, how can we appeal to younger people and their families? And the Children's Treasure Chest and the Kindles for Kids has been two of our attempts to do that. We also have our monthly view from the pew, which simply means that after communion on the first Sunday of the month, we're going to invite up a lay person to be able to talk about how he or she first came to Holy Family, what they love about Holy Family, how they're involved in Holy Family, etc. The view from the pew is something I really enjoy doing. This Sunday, you'll notice that we're going to have paletas con el párroco, ice cream with the pastor, so that as you leave Mass, why would you want to go to any other Catholic church when you can go to Holy Family and have free ice cream after church? Follow me? So when the kids come up for the children's treasure chest, we give them a little coupon for the free paleta, the free ice cream. And then we have outside, then the person who has the ice cream, the adults can buy theirs for $1 each, and all the kids get their paleta con el párroco. Felix the Frog. Have you seen on Facebook the photos of Felix, the happy Holy Family flying frog? It's the mascot of our parish community these last few months. Our goal is to have various mascots. We're building up for $180. You can get anything. Online, we went and found a frog costume. Asked parishioners, is there anyone who would be willing to donate a frog costume for $180? Father, I'll do that. And suddenly we have Felix after Mass greeting the kids. You'll see Felix on Sunday. Make sure you get a photo. Breakfasts, potlucks at the Spanish Mass. They're doing a monthly potluck after our Spanish Mass to build community. So, any kind of activity, we're just always thinking a few weeks ahead, okay, what can we be announcing so that people know that there's always something new and something different that would draw them here rather than to the other places they could be going, or that draws them out of bed. Let's just be honest. Especially here in Texas, on cloudy, rainy mornings, the attendance goes down. How do we combat that?
Or the heat.
Or the heat. And so it just seems that these are some ideas that we've tried that bring people together. That's organizing people, bringing the people together.